Well, good evening, everybody. Coming to you live from Mike's Bar and Grill in Berea. Welcome to the BW Athletics Roadshow on BWYellowJackets.com. I'm Brendan Gulick. Glad to have you on board again for another Monday night look at what the Yellow Jacket program accomplished this past week. We've got several special guests lined up for you tonight, and we'll tell you about what's to come in the week that will be here in Yellow Jacket Athletics. We'll hear from Rob Becker, who oversees all of our athletic facilities and a lot of the recreational sports at Baldwin-Wallace. We're also going to check in with Nicholle Shoger, the head lacrosse coach for Yellow Jacket women's lacrosse. They've got off to a nice start. They're 3-2 in conference play and had a big win earlier this week on senior night. And we'll also visit with John Fuehrer, who's been an associate professor at BW for a long time. We're going to talk about some study abroad programs and the MBA program with John. So looking forward to the visits with each of the three of them here coming up shortly. In the meantime, we'll get you started, as always, with a look at what happened this past week in Yellow Jacket Athletics. On Tuesday this past week, the men's golf team continued their competition from the previous weekend. They were competing down at Glenmore Country Club in Canton at a competition that was hosted by Walsh University, a Division II school. And there were some D2 and some Division III schools that competed there. Yellow Jackets as a team finished 9th in that competition. Henry Newman, who we had a chance to visit with on this show just a couple weeks ago. Henry continued to play well. He was 74, 74, 77 over the weekend. He's an all-conference performer. Senior academic All-OAC conference selection Logan Bratch, 77, 84, 74. Those two guys led the Yellow Jacket golf team this past week. So the Jackets had a Tuesday competition, and they're getting ready for action again this coming week. Wednesday was actually a pretty busy day. Softball, tennis, and lacrosse all competed on Wednesday. The softball team had a chance to play Grove City. They were on the road and unfortunately dropped the first game 3-1 to Grove City, but came back and won the second game 5-4 in a game that was actually shortened because of darkness, but the Jackets were able to split that. On the women's tennis side, BW with a great performance. They won all 6 singles matches and all 3 doubles courts. So they had a 9-0 sweep of Mount Union on Wednesday. Congratulations to them. Unfortunately, on the men's side, because of some tough weather on Wednesday, the Yellow Jackets and Purple Raiders were not able to compete. So we'll hopefully see that rescheduled here very soon. On the ladies' side on Wednesday, the Yellow Jacket lacrosse team lost to Mount Union 16-5, but the men's team had an impressive 14-9 win in lacrosse over Mount Union. That included a couple of late goals that really sealed things from Kyler Byerly and Jake Branton. Jackets in that game were led by Byerly, who had 4 goals, and hat tricks as well from Jake Nanoski and from Hunter Bain. So BW lacrosse continues its nice performance here this year. Thursday, the number 8 nationally ranked Yellow Jacket baseball team went on the other side of town and played a really good Case Western Reserve team, and unfortunately came up a little bit short. BW put together what I thought was a nice comeback late in the game, scoring in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings, but they ultimately fell a little bit short, 12-7. Alex Ludwig, a good day at the plate. He finished 3 for 5, as did his teammate Sean Kulinich, and a couple RBIs from Ryan Guggenheim as well, but Jackets ultimately fell a little bit short to the Spartans on Thursday. Friday, there was only one competition, and it was women's lacrosse. They rebounded nicely from that midweek loss with a very impressive 18-4 win over Muskingum on Senior Day for the Jackets. They honored their 5 seniors and had, frankly, a really good first half. 12 goals. They led 12-2 at halftime. Jackets got 3 from Deanna Lucas, 3 from Rennick Mellon, 2 goals apiece from Taylor Miklos and from Maddie Ray, as they racked up 18 goals on the afternoon. So a great win there for BW women's lacrosse. Saturday was actually kind of an abbreviated day. There were far more contests on Sunday than on Saturday. Saturday, the men's and women's track and field team competed at Selby Stadium, hosted down at Ohio Wesleyan. And on the women's side, out of the 14 schools, ladies finished in 5th place. The men finished 9th out of 13 teams. And on the men's lacrosse side on Saturday, a nice 16-5 win over Muskingum. Jackets had a big lead after one quarter, 8-1, and frankly never looked back 6 goals from Jake Nanoski, which I believe tied his career high. And Kyler Byerly had another 4-goal afternoon as those two guys continue to shine in OAC competition. And then on Sunday, it was certainly a busy day. The men's and women's golf teams both played. The men were down at Worcester Country Club, and out of 9 teams total, they finished 6th. The Yellow Jackets were led by Henry Newman, who finished 11th overall in the competition individually out of the 9 teams, so 11 out of 45 players. Logan Brach also played well. He was 16th. He shot an 82. Henry Newman shot 81. Christian Miller, Ryan Green, and Will Skersey all played as well. On the women's golf side, they played at Ellsworth Meadows Golf Club out in Hudson, part of the John Carroll Spring Invitational, getting ready, by the way, for the OAC Conference Championship. Top 5 Yellow Jackets included Brooke Newsom, Lauren Nayer, Kelly Linneby, Morgan Briley, and Leah Metzger. Brooke Newsom led the way. She finished in 9th place with a round of 87. The baseball team had a really good showing on Sunday. Doubleheader against the Capital University. I always want to call them the Crusaders because they've been the Crusaders forever. They're now the Capital Comets. Capital, unfortunately, not able to play very well against the Jackets. BW beat them 17-4 in Game 1 and then knocked off Capital in 8 innings in Game 2 by a score of 13-4. And then on the softball side, Yellow Jackets also played Capital and also walked away with a pair of wins. Those were much tighter games, but wins nonetheless. BW a 2-1 and a 4-3 final, helping Nikki Camerati once again win OAC Pitcher of the Week. Softball was supposed to play across town today against John Carroll, but if you live in Northeast Ohio, pretty well aware that it has been kind of a gross spring day in Northeast Ohio. Wet and cold and rainy all day, and unfortunately that doubleheader was postponed. So that's a look back at the week that was, and looking forward to seeing how the spring continues with competitions really heating up now in the middle of April. We are certainly getting close to the part of the season where we're going to dive into some OAC tournament competition. In the meantime, Rob Becker joins us. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see
you. Good to see you. Rob oversees all of our athletic facilities and frankly does just about everything for BW Athletics. I feel like you were the most involved person for the Yellow Jacket Athletic Department. And before I answer any or ask you any questions, really grateful for the involvement that you have in all of our programs and all of our facilities. I think one of the things that people most notice when they first come on our campus is that BW has first-class facilities for Division III schools. The turf looks good. The floors look good. Things are painted. It's clean. It's fresh. It's pretty important when you're trying to make an impression on recruits to have facilities that people want to compete in, and I think you have a big hand in that.
Yeah, thank you. It's, the coaches obviously are the reason we do it, so it helps them with recruiting. But that 2 years of COVID was tough, right? Like trying to make it. We had people in the stands that were cardboard cutouts, just something to keep that atmosphere alive. So it's been good, and it's fun. It does. It looks great. It makes the playing much better, right? The surface is great. Look good, feel good, play good, but also when you're in a place that takes care of it. So it's been good.
I think maybe the most notable change for me in the last couple of years is the new curtain inside. It adds such a different look and feel to volleyball and wrestling and obviously basketball games. What was the planning process like to get a curtain that had, frankly, a logo that's that big on it?
Right. So that, was probably 24, 25 years old. And when we started talking about it, it was tore. It needed done. Everybody used to cut through.
I was going to say there's conveniently a door that's in it now.
Yeah, so there's a door in there. We worked with the coaches and the athletic staff on it to see what made sense and not having something in the shooter's eye, right, for basketball, and worked with University Relations to come up with the actual right font logo. But it was something that we talked about, and that banner is the exact same material that the LeBron James banner that was downtown Cleveland.
How fun.
Same company did that out of, I want to say it's either Toledo or Sandusky. So it's been good. Having the door has been a lifesaver.
Oh, I bet. That's awfully cool. I did not know that about the material. Love that. There's a lot going on right now in Yellow Jacket athletics on the varsity athletics side, but I think maybe people aren't quite aware of all of the opportunities that exist and, frankly, the success that some of the recreational sports, the intramurals, are having. Why don't we start on the racquetball side? I mean, geez, if you walk into the rec center, it hits you right away how many national championships the racquetball teams have, and I know that that level of success has continued.
Yeah, so it's we took a hiatus there for 2 years. They basically shut all racquetball down, being close proximity indoor sport. So recruit-wise, we've got 10, 12 student athletes that are playing. 2 weeks ago, we had our men's and women's teams travel out to Phoenix to play in the Collegiate USA Racquetball Championships, and we walked away with two of our members from the women's team, Faith Malik and Julia Stein, that were All-American status. So they have a kind of combination of how many matches you win in that tournament to get you that All-American status. But Faith finished first in her level, and then her and Julia finished first, I believe, in doubles. So awesome. It was good to at least get back on the wagon.
Back to the winning ways for
right.
sure. How about on the esports side? I know some folks are probably not aware of the fact that as a college student, you can compete in esports. I think maybe people know that there are plenty of kids or people that get paid to play video games that people will watch them play on YouTube, and that's obviously a growing thing. But there is a market for that right now, kids that are playing more and more video games, and we're launching a program at BW.
Yeah, so we've had a club that's been competing for a while. Obviously recreational, come as you will, but they've had probably 15, 18 students that have been a part of that. It's a whole new world for me.
Probably for most of us.
Yeah, these students, it's not like they dabble in 3, 4, 5, 6 different titles. That's one title they like to play, and they compete at it, and it's strategy, and it's, everybody thinks NBA 2K and Madden and stuff, but these are a lot of strategy-type games. So it's good. So universities decided to make a commitment to it. We've got a search currently right now in the process for assistant director that will oversee esports, and they're going to work with admissions. Obviously, the number of schools in Ohio, let alone just Northeast Ohio,
sure.
that have competitive high school esports teams, it just continually grows and grows and grows. So if we can give our students here that are already on campus an outlet for something they like to do and have a little bit more structure to it, but also go out and recruit some additional students to help with our numbers and work with admissions and get them here, it's a win-win.
It's funny how technology's changed to the point where you think back. I know in age-wise we're not that far apart. When I was a kid, my mom used to say, "Hey, go outside and play," and you play video games for an hour or whatever it is. Right. And now it's all the kids that played video games are flying drones halfway across the world in the Air Force or whatever it might be. There's more to it than just the gaming aspect.
There is. There's a strategy, and through this whole last week of interviews and the committee, there's a few gamers on the committee, and then there's administrators that have never picked up a game system.
Sure.
And there's actually workout, exercise, nutrition, like some of that stuff's still involved
sure.
with it, and we don't think of it because the stigma has always been drink Mountain Dew, eat Doritos, stay up late, and that's really not the case. It is in some sense, but when it comes to the team stuff, it's practice after school just like a varsity sport would be, but it's interesting. So
no doubt about that. Beyond the recreational side, well, I guess I don't want to neglect the women's rugby team either, because they've had a really nice season, and I know they fell just short of an automatic bid to the national tournament, but I'd love for you to talk a bit about them.
Yeah, so last year that was probably the first big thing that we started doing back out of COVID. Outside sport, right? Like doing the testing, so we were able to get going through it. And they qualified last year for nationals, and they won their bracket of the Contenders Cup down in New Orleans Memorial Day weekend. So coming into it this year, like we thought things would be pretty good. They had a 15 season in the fall, and then their 7 season currently. Went into this past weekend's tournament and lost in sudden overtime in the championship match. So they were right there at it, and there's a good group of young women that we had. We've had a couple that have went on and played in like an all-star tournament previously. We've got a couple that are graduating this year, but for the most part, we'll have another team back again next year, and coaches will be recruiting. And I think their last competition is actually a home tournament that we have every year. It's a men's and women's rugby. It's the Stinger Cup inside Finney Stadium, so they get to play on a great surface as well.
Ton of fun. It'll be really cool to watch. Beyond the extracurriculars, the intramurals and things like that, I know you've got a ton of involvement with the Brown and Gold Club. And for folks that don't know, I mean, that is the charitable arm for Yellow Jacket Athletics. The Brown and Gold Club are a huge reason why we are able to support and push forward Yellow Jacket varsity athletics. And I know we're coming upon the time of year coming up here in a little less than a month, May 4th, with the big reverse raffle. And I know that's a huge event for you guys.
Yeah, it's May 14th.
I'm sorry,
yep,
May 14th.
We talked about this earlier.
Saturday,
yeah.
May 14th.
So this is the 50th year of the reverse raffle. It was supposed to be 2 years ago. That got put on a little bit of hiatus. So the 50th year, it's a big thing, right? It's going to be inside the rec center in the field house. So it gives all those athletes a place to come back to that they've been at. They were a student. They can look at the Hall of Fame cases. They can see where they played, competed, practiced, team meetings. But it's good to get the athletes back, but it's also good to get friends and family, the supporters. I mean, we have numerous people that come back that didn't even play, right? Like they come back because their friends are coming back, or it's a spouse or a family member or somebody's in the area traveling. So it's we roughly have about 175 to 200 attendees show up. Right now we've got about 75 tickets left. There's 200 tickets available, so 75's left, and it's a time just to get together to raise fund for BW Athletics, cherish those memories that you had, reconnect, right? And it's about a 4-hour kind of party, and then hopefully we get them re-engaged throughout the summer. Let them know about the golf tournaments and the other fundraisers that teams have. And then that money obviously goes into the fund to where coaches and programs can request for certain things that they'd like to add to their program.
So for folks that maybe can't make it on May 14th but want to be a part of this or want to buy a raffle ticket or somehow support or sponsor teams, how can they help?
Right, so www.bw.edu/events. And then it'll pop up, but you can purchase a raffle ticket. It's $100. If you want to be able to come, or you want to put a name of a table in somebody's memory or honor, you can do that as well as a sponsorship. And then that grand prize, usually what's happened is we'll get down to the final 2 or 3, and at that time we'll ask that group, do you want to stay in or do you want to split the pot? And that pot's a $5,000 payout. So it's good. We've got sideboards, 50-50, other little games that people can participate in. So they can go online and purchase those, or they can reach out to BW Athletics as well.
Hopefully that'll be a really fun day. And what time is the event?
It's from 6 to 10.
6 to 10 p.m. and it's in the gymnasium?
In the field house.
In the field house.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So easy enough for people to get to on campus. You've been around BW for a long time. And, you've obviously got your hands in a lot of different things, and we are certainly grateful for that. But why is BW a special place to you?
Well, I think it all started when I stepped on campus in 2000, right, as a student athlete, playing football and working in the rec center and helping in athletics in the summertime and facilities, and was able to, graduate in my 4 years and get out and make memories. And knowing that I don't necessarily think that I thought I would ever come back, but there came that opportunity. And for those that obviously don't know, it's kind of hard to get into BW, right? People stay for a long time, and alumni always come back. And when the opportunity came up, I jumped at it and decided that it's time for me to give back to the students that people gave to me.
Sure.
And it molds you for that 4 years that you have, and some of your best friends and lifelong friendships. And obviously there's still a few people here in athletics that were here when I was here, and there's still some across campus. So it's good to be back, that family community atmosphere, and it's neat to see too that you can have your hand in certain things and help affect change in the right way. So.
What are some of the fun memories that you like to reflect back on, whether it's from your playing days or just from being a student? Do things like homecoming or any of the events in the fall that draw people to campus, to any of that, bring back memories of 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Right. So probably the one that resonates with me the most would be April Rain, because it's in the spring, right? And
Sure.
we just had that this past week. In the fall, you don't really notice what goes on. You're working, you're at football practice, you're at games. I mean, it's just a vicious cycle, right?
Right.
Thank you.
It's been a big week for Rob Becker here for the Yellow Jackets. All right. We're still good. Want to make sure that we're continuing our live stream here as we get ready for Nicholle. Nicholle Shoger, our head women's lacrosse coach. Nicholle, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you.
I know. I haven't seen you in a while.
It's been too long.
I know.
And that's just kind of how it goes in season.
Yeah.
You probably don't see too many people outside of your team during the course of the season.
Nope, not even my husband that much.
Well, that's how the schedule rolls.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk some lacrosse.
Okay.
It's been a fun year. You guys are 3-2 in conference and coming off of a heck of a win on Senior Day on Friday.
Yeah.
I realize you're more than halfway through the season at this point, so I don't want to ask you questions previewing the season,
Okay.
but where are you now when you look at this team compared to where you thought you'd be at this point of the year when you were getting started back at the beginning?
Yeah, I think we're still having our ups and downs. I don't think we've played our greatest lacrosse just yet. And, I'm still hoping that we still have a point to peak. But as of right now, we're working through some kinks. Thankfully, we've had a pretty solid schedule that allows us to have those mishaps. But again, I think we still haven't played our greatest lacrosse, so we still got about 4 more games. And then we've already made the conference, being top 6, beating 3 conference opponents. So we know that there's still more to our season.
You guys obviously played a really tough schedule early in the year, and I can understand why you would sit there and say, like, hey, we really haven't played our best, but you also put the measuring stick pretty high, right? And so I think there has to be a balancing act in the expectations there of looking at the team you got, what you're trying to build, and thinking, gee, we're playing a really good schedule. What did you accomplish, despite losing some of those early season tough games? What did you accomplish there that you feel like you've carried forward in the last 4 or 5 games?
I think just, building upon each game, I think we have gotten better every game, right? Like, do I think we could be in a better spot right now? Sure, but I think every single game we're building off of it, and we're finally figuring out our starting lineup. I think that's been something that we played around with a roster of 26 now. We started out with 31, but we had a larger roster, so trying to figure out a starting lineup was really, really tough. People were challenging one another, and we were trying to figure out what the right chemistry. So I think these games have helped us figure out our starting lineup, and just finding the strengths both offensively and defensively. You can really see that in our games as we progressed along season.
You've got 5 seniors, correct? Or did I not count them
well,
correctly?
we got 4 fifth years. Not everybody's playing. And then we got 3 seniors, a junior that's graduating early. So.
Okay, so when I saw the roster, it said 5. I immediately kind of went, I don't know if that's totally right, but it's a good starting point. For the group that you think is playing their final year for you,
yes.
Tell us what that particular group has meant to the program.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have, Maddie Ray, who's been now 4 years since she transferred, so she's really kind of a true senior, even though she's a 5th year. And she's always elevated our attacking unit. I mean, you can see it on everybody's opposing scouts. They're always shouting out, she's a shooter, she's a shooter. I think Sid Chamberlain, she's finally having a standout year for us. She's finally assisting and scoring, and she's having a standout year. I think she's like 2nd in points, 3rd in points for us. And then just, as anchors for our defense, you got Ashley Hildreth in goal. She's been there for 5 years. I will say it time and time again. She is, I think, the #1 goalkeeper in the OAC. And I think she's come up really big for us in big games, but also kept us in games that, we shouldn't have probably stayed in as long as we possibly could have.
Year 5 for you.
Yeah.
And sorry, I don't mean to make you feel like, wow, it's been that long. But the reality is it's, you've had a time now to kind of stamp the program with your identity, your brand. For folks that haven't seen your teams play these last few years, especially considering the COVID challenges and all that, when your group is playing at its best, what does that look like?
It's a team effort. I mean, we don't really work plays around specific players on the offensive side. So you saw, like, when we were hot in Marietta, we had 8 different goal scorers. Defensively, we're not a team that's going to sit back. So we want to, make other offenses feel that pressure. So I think it's kind of like a in-your-face kind of thing. Like, on the offensive side, we want to play fast but smart. And then on the defensive side, we don't want them to ever feel comfortable.
I realize that the conference in general, I think, has gotten stronger the last couple of years. When women's lacrosse in the OAC first started, it felt like it was really top-heavy.
Yeah.
There were a couple of schools, including BW, that seemed to just kind of have a different caliber of program. But, boy, the bottom schools in the league have really elevated their play. And I think, to me, that's why it's been fun to follow, because you're watching games that feel more competitive now. How would you describe the brand of lacrosse in this league?
I feel like we've had some stellar coaches that have stayed around for a while, which have allowed the growth of the game to accelerate. I think we're a little bit still under the radar, but then you've got people that were receiving votes like this week. Like John Carroll was receiving votes this week. Mount Union was receiving votes this week. Capital, who's 13-0 right now, 12-0 right now, that's crushing. So I think we're still kept under the radar, but our name's getting out there, and I think that's because other programs in the OAC are playing tougher schedules. So in the past, we just haven't played as tough of schedules to see those regional rankings and for people to, know who Baldwin Wallace is and who John Carroll is, up in Cleveland. So I think it's, I think it's growing, and it's growing because we've been around long enough now, and, coaches are kind of upping their, schedule a little bit more.
Sure. Nicholle Shoger, our guest from our women's lacrosse program at BW. Continue for a few more minutes. As you kind of project forward for the rest of the season, I know that the schedule's kind of shrinking, right? You're kind of looking at it and go, gee, there's only a few more games here. But to your point, you've made the conference tournament. What are you trying to accomplish here in these last few games, aside from the obvious of we're playing to win? What are you trying to accomplish here that you think you can carry into the tournament?
Yeah, I think what we're vying for now is finishing in the 3 or 4 spot to host. I don't want us to go travel for that play-in game. So, we are still working at, beating the rest of the conference. And it's going to be a tough schedule. I mean, we've got who's up next? Otterbein. They're a tough team. They may be getting new coaches, but that's a tough game for us. And we are hungry. And so we got to look forward, but we got to work really hard to be able to finish in the 3 or 4 spot right now, so that we don't have to travel for the first play-in game.
From a recruiting perspective, lacrosse obviously is still, I guess, newer in the Midwest. Everybody at this point probably knows that it's a sport that, really dominated out on the East Coast for a long time.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we are getting away from that.
Yes.
It's not that new anymore.
No.
There's a lot of youth teams. There's a lot of young kids that are playing. How have you seen, now that some of the kids that are playing in your program, they've played for 10 years before they've come to college. How are you seeing the play at the high school level elevated to where maybe it's changing your approach or your style in recruiting?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's getting better, everywhere. I still think club ball runs a lot of it. So, even if they're not coming from a stellar high school program, them going and playing club in the summertime has really elevated their play if they don't see it in the high school level. But, we have, recruits coming in for next year that are from Minnesota, from Michigan. I mean, we are just expanding. And that's something that's with our location in general, being so close to the Cleveland International Airport. But the sky's the limit. I mean, we're finding players in Florida. We're finding players pretty much everywhere. So, if you're a good lacrosse player, reach out to us. Let us know, because it doesn't matter where you're coming from. If we watch film and we like you, welcome to BW.
What is the easiest way for young ladies or for their families to get a hold of you?
I would say either just by email. There's so many recruiting websites that have our email in it, but then on top of it is our cell phone. So, if I don't get back to you in an email, shoot me a text. I'm way quicker with somebody that's texting me.
Fair enough. One more question, and it's maybe more on a personal side.
Yeah.
You're a coach who's been in the business for a while, but you're also working on starting a family, and you've got a lot going on in your personal life. And I would think that, being in that part of your life is probably really important for your players to see, because you juggle a lot. You've got a lot of things going on personally and professionally, and I feel like you are the kind of role model that a lot of those young ladies need in their lives. Yeah. How do you manage all of that?
Yeah, I think I've been better. Like when I was a younger coach, I was like, my private life has to be my private life, and we can't cross a line. But I think it's really important to share your life with your student athletes, and so that's what I've done this season. I mean, I've been very honest with them about things, and I've shared great things with them with, being pregnant and being due in July. Like that's something that's, something to be celebrated, and for your team to be a part of it, that's huge. I mean, they threw me a baby shower, so I mean, it's just
awesome.
I've been super grateful for this team. And with sharing personal things, I think it's only brought us closer, and it doesn't ever cross the line anymore where I felt like that was when I was younger. So sharing my life and letting them know too, like when I get home, I would like to put my phone down. So like, please, 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 please. Or like, as soon as this baby comes, like our practice schedules are going to be a little bit different. Please work with me so I can be home at night, So I think sharing those thoughts and processes ahead of time just help it be really successful in the long run.
Are you ready?
I still got a couple months. I feel good, so I can't complain about this, but let me get through season, and then I'll think about the rest.
I have a different question there. Good. Well, we are awfully proud of what you've built professionally here in the program that you've carried on. It's been a lot of fun to watch these young ladies compete, and several of them, and especially Maddie, at such a high level. Wish you all the best here in these last couple weeks, and then we'll see how things go in the tournament. But thanks for spending some time with us.
Yep, thank you.
All right, Nicholle Shoger, the head coach for our women's lacrosse team at Baldwin-Wallace. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Our final guest of the evening will be John Fuehrer, and I think he's on his way over. We'll see him in just a second. Hey, I'm great. Get you all set up here. Hopefully that's adjusted well enough, but adjust as you need. Flip it that way. There we go.
There we go.
Good? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Even better.
Yeah.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending some time with us.
No problem at all. Glad to be here.
I think it's a lot of fun that we spend a good chunk of time talking athletics on this show, but I think it's important for folks to know what else is going on at BW. And so this week we'd like to spend a little time talking to you about several of the things that you're involved in. Obviously, you've been at BW and a part of this community for a long time.
Yeah.
And I know the study abroad program in particular is very much under your umbrella. Tell us how busy that is.
It's not under my umbrella. It's part of what's now the Center for Global Explorations, which is study abroad.
Sure.
But I have been doing this for a while, since 2011. Been taking students to China, and I'll talk more about those experiences. But it's been about 7 trips to China, 5 of them with students, 2 of them with on my own, kind of mapping out what we're going to do and meeting with businesses and universities over there to ask them if they'll host us the following year. So I have gone a couple times by myself, but mostly with students. And I do have a message. I have a message for the athletes.
Okay.
And I'll get to that in a little bit, but I'll tell you now. So there's 2 types of study abroad students. There's the type of student, very independent student, that just says, I want to go to Italy for the semester. I'm out of here. See ya.
See ya. Have a good time.
And they're on their own.
Sure.
They're totally on their own. We don't get a lot of students doing that any longer. I don't know if the pandemic or the isolation of, people kind of want to be home a little bit more. But at any rate, so the second type of study abroad student is the type of student that says, I want to go abroad, but I'm not sure I want to go on my own. I don't want to be gone for a full semester. I'd rather go with a group of people.
Yeah, dipping your toe in the water instead of jumping right
That
in.
is exactly right. And by the way, many students that study abroad with what's called a faculty-led program, that's what I'm getting to, they ultimately either do a second one or they go alone again. The numbers are very high. Once they do it once, they try to go again.
Love the experience.
Yeah.
That's great.
So the faculty-led programs, the message for the athletes is that they're almost always in May. So they don't interfere with a lot of athletics.
Schedules.
They're only 2 weeks. They're faculty-led. You don't – I hate – all you have to do is show up. So –
Sounds pretty good.
yeah. I mean, we plan everything. We plan out everything. I'll talk a minute about Thailand. But there are a lot of opportunities. It's not just Thailand. We've got Thailand, Japan. I think Charles Campisi, he's doing the Mediterranean one. We've got several going to South America. So there's so many different options, and they're all in May. And they're led by faculty. You're typically traveling with about 20 other students. It's just an amazing experience. It's difficult to describe. I always tell students that there's 3 reasons to study abroad, and I wrote this down. Academic development, professional development, and personal development. Those 3 things. Academically, you're going to get some credits taken care of. You're going to get your, your international core done, EXP done, and usually the credit hours will go to your major or minor, or at the very least, they'll go to your total hours of graduation.
Okay.
So that's the academic part. The professional part, employers love to see on a resume that a student has studied abroad. So in my profession, I have another consulting business, and I work with a lot of HR people. So I know for a fact when they see somebody studied abroad, employers don't ask, did you go with a faculty member or did you do it alone? They don't ask that. They just see study abroad.
I want to see the authenticity of you having gone there.
That's right. And why do they appreciate that? Because they know that you have the ability to step into an uncomfortable situation, an unknown situation, and thrive, or at least get through it. So that's the professional side. And then the personal side is this. Have you ever gone abroad?
I have gone abroad. I did not study abroad.
Okay, so where did you go?
I went to Ireland.
Awesome.
Loved it.
And when you came home, what did you feel?
Oh, God, I've thought about the trip. I'm not exaggerating. Almost daily
Yes.
in the 10 years since I've come back.
Right.
So I was only there 5 days. It was a life-changing experience for me.
It is. Thank you. So
This wasn't planned, by the way. I didn't know he was going to ask me that. It's hand to God. That's true.
But it is a fact that the majority of students come home and say, my life will never be the same.
Sure.
Because the students are required to give us feedback, and I can't tell you how many times I have read, I can't believe that world exists outside of Northern Ohio. Why did I wait so long to do this?
Yeah.
Comments like that, and comments like what you just said, I don't think my life will ever be the same. And so on a personal level, you start, when we were taking students to China, I think the number, as we're getting boarding the plane or whatever, and I say, guys, you're about to go on a trip that only 10% of Americans go on. 1 in 10 people, go visit China. So it puts you in a position, you've done something very, 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 very different, and something that most people don't do. Yeah.
No, I think there's so much value in that, and especially as we've gotten in this age now where students want what they feel like is going to be some real life experience that they're getting out of an investment in going to college. The world's not in your books and in your maps. It's out there, and you go.
Yeah.
Right? And the idea that you could check off academic boxes by going and doing those experiences, but the way they resonate with you and the things you learn that you never could have imagined you'd learn by putting yourself in situations. You made the comment earlier. Employers like to know that students are willing to put them in positions where they're uncomfortable. You can't grow as a person unless you get in those situations. You need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, and this is a great way to kind of get that ball rolling.
And our students, whenever you travel, I don't know about you, but whenever I travel, the anxiety kind of ramps up a little bit, especially when you're traveling to the other side of the planet.
Absolutely.
And so we talk to students about the mental challenges of traveling abroad. You're in a lot of planes and trains and buses and you're packed in there, and it can get stressful. So we talk about coping mechanisms. We go through all of that in the lead up to these the faculty-led study abroad programs. There's always an orientation, and we cover all of these things like the mental stresses of traveling abroad. Some students are perfectly fine. They just bring their shorts and their flip-flops. They're good to go. Yeah, no kidding. And then other students, it can be stressful for them. But we work with students on that, and it almost always works out without a problem.
So I'm sure the number one question that you've gotten in the last couple of years is how has COVID and closed borders and all those things, how has that affected this program and the outlook on it?
To put it simply, it has shattered study abroad across every university.
Yeah.
The shutdown and the isolation, and it everything canceled. So we were supposed to go on, I don't know which, it was seventh trip or whatever it was, in May of 2020. My co-leader and I, Dr. Leah Wong, over in sociology, she was my co-leader for all of those trips to China. She's wonderful. So we were getting ready to do yet another trip. Had a great group of students ready to go. And in January, when we came back in January 2020, first 2 weeks of January, we're still going. There's this weird pandemic thing. But, we'll be okay.
We'll be fine.
We'll be fine. A couple weeks later, I'm not sure we're going to go. 2 weeks after that, we can't go to China.
Yeah.
So we moved the program to Vietnam and some other places. 2 weeks after that, we can't go to Vietnam. Funny enough, then 2 weeks after that, we said, well, let's go to Hawaii. And there was a little pushback from the parents. You're not taking my kid to Hawaii to study abroad. So that was kind of funny. But the kids were the students were fired up about it. They're like,
sure they were.
Yeah. And then 2 weeks after that, we were going to Ireland. Like, great, Ireland, it's isolated. They're not going to get it. 2 weeks after that, Ireland shut down, and the program was just done, over. And so from that point to pretty recently, study abroad has been shut down, not just on our campus, but everywhere.
Sure.
We work with an agent over in China that helps us set up everything, and they're actually helping us set up Thailand for 2023. Same agent. And I've met the CEO of this agency. I mean, his business was
destroyed,
decimated. It was absolutely destroyed. That's what they do, and so for 2.5 years, he could not do anything. They started doing some virtual stuff, which, it kind of reminded people that we can still do things. It might be virtual, but we can still do something until we get back to the in-person stuff. But he had a rough go at it. So the pandemic just absolutely shut everything down.
So the last 2 years have obviously been challenging, but the prognosis, I hope, is encouraging.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So things are opening back up. In fact, in Thailand, I think it's the president, Thailand was closed off for a while, and the prime minister, I believe it's the prime minister again, he said, we can't do this. a lot of their GDP is based on tourism. And he just said, we got to open. We're going to be careful, but we're going to open back up.
Sure.
And so that's why we chose. So my specialty, not so to speak, is in China and Southeast Asia. Well, it has become Southeast Asia because there's a reluctance. I would like to go back to China, but right now China's pretty much shut down, and I think parents are a little bit reluctant to send their children to China. There's that kind of the stigma attached to it.
And I was going to ask too, the idea that look, you can't control what's going on around the world,
right.
but the world's a tough place right now.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah,
and obviously there's some lack of peace on the other side of the planet that is affecting more than just that region. And I'm curious how you handle those tough conversations.
Yeah, so we talked to it all starts on a very high level at the university. If the university feels that it is unsafe to travel, we're not going anywhere.
Sure.
Okay, and then it kind of trickles down to us. The Thailand trip is going to be co-led Tony Dick in sport management, and I will take the students there in 2023. And I'm going there. I'm going to go to Thailand to help set things up in June. Tony's going in July. And one of the things that we've been telling our students is that we ask, when we interview the students that want to come, we say, what are your concerns? Is it a long flight? Is it food? Is it the cost? What is it that you're concerned about? And one of the students said, is it safe? And, Tony and I, that is our number one priority, is student safety. And the same with the Center for Global Explorations office. Number one priority is student safety. We are not going to take students anywhere that we feel is unsafe. We're not going to fly over a country that we feel is unsafe. I mean, it's absolutely number one. We don't, we make it basically a requirement. If the student wants to go, when we're done with the day and the student wants to go out and explore, we tell them, then grab some other students, or you're not going.
Sure.
So it is, Thailand is a safe place. There's petty crime and petty theft everywhere. It's in Chicago. It's everywhere. So, we have a good. We're very careful about that component of safety. And then we look at we go all the way up to the State Department, because the State Department has 4 levels of security or safety. And when it gets into the, I forget, red zone, it's no, you're not going.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, easiest way for students or student athletes, anybody who wants to be involved with this, easiest way for them to get a hold of you or to learn more about, information that you guys provide.
Yeah. So the first step, obviously, I want to promote our program.
Sure.
Tony and I. That's Thailand 2023. So, but if you're interested in studying abroad on your own, or if you're interested in the faculty-led study abroad, the first thing you do is you go to the Center for Global Explorations offices, second floor of the Union, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about study abroad. And one of the first questions they're going to ask is, you want to go alone, or do you want to go with faculty-led? And then they'll say, okay, we've got Japan, we've got Germany, we've got Europe. They're going to show you these things, and that's how you get started. If before, and usually then you get started with an application. Now, if before you even open up an application, I've already received 4 emails from students that say, I'm not sure I want to start the application yet. I just have some questions. And I'll set up a meeting with them, a Zoom meeting or in person or whatever.
Sure.
And we'll go over the costs and what are their concerns and all kinds of things. So anyway, I say that usually the first step is going to that office in the union, but you can always reach out to Tony or me or any of the faculty leaders that are running those things and just pop in and say, I need to know more about this program.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, have I given you enough of a platform to talk about the things you wanted, or are there other things? I know you had some notes. I want to make sure you have a chance to hit what you want.
We just covered the next steps. I'll be very brief. If you have any concerns, as I said before, a lot of concerns. Like some people, I've never flown before. A lot of people will say I've never flown before. I don't know what to tell you. There's only one way to get across the side of the planet, and that's a long flight.
Sure.
Food. Even with food, we've had, for example, we have had students that have a peanut allergy, and what we do is we'll make up a card. For China, we made up a card in Mandarin that said. In Mandarin said, I have a peanut allergy, no peanut oil, and we would give that to the server, and they'd say, okay, language barrier. A lot of people say, well, I don't speak Thai. Neither do I. You're going to get by. You're going to be fine. So almost all of the barriers. And real quick, I will talk about cost. Our study abroad, we're looking at about $4,800. However, if you've never studied abroad before, you're kind of automatically eligible for a 20% discount on that.
Nice.
Okay, that doesn't happen if you've already studied abroad through BW, but if you've never studied abroad through BW, 20% off right off the go.
Excellent.
Right, and then there's other methods to help pay for it. But we're, after many years, we're used to some of those things, not objections or concerns. We're used to those, and we're usually able to get by those. So
excellent.
I hope you guys will consider it. To the athletes out there, I hope you guys will consider it. It's great timing. It's usually first half of May. Most trips are between 15 and 20 days.
Excellent.
And we're back home.
It's been a wonderful conversation.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed learning
cool.
about a little bit about myself, and wish you all the best on your journey as you keep taking students over.
Awesome.
Thanks you for your time.
Really appreciate it.
John Fuehrer.
Thanks.
Appreciate him very much for stopping by, and we'll continue our program by just looking forward to the week that is to come with Yellow Jacket Athletics. Kind of wrap up looking ahead here. Why don't we start tomorrow, where the baseball and softball teams, as well as the men's tennis team, are competing. Baseball will play at Heidelberg. Softball will play at John Carroll after their rainout today. Those are big games for both teams. We'll see if they can perform well. Softball's doubleheader starts at 3 o'clock. Baseball's doubleheader begins at 1 o'clock. And the men's tennis team is playing Mount Union tomorrow at 4:30. On Wednesday, softball has a doubleheader at home. Heidelberg is coming to town. Men's and women's tennis will play Ohio Northern. The ladies will be at home. The men will be out in Ada. On Thursday, the women's golf team will compete. They'll be up in Michigan playing at the Hills of Lenawee Golf Club. That's in Adrian, Michigan. Wishing them well. Men's and women's track and field will compete at Heidelberg this weekend on Saturday. Women's lacrosse and men's lacrosse both have Otterbein on Saturday. Women are on the road. Men will be at home. Those games are at noon and 1. Baseball with a doubleheader against Otterbein, who's historically had a very good program. That begins at 1 o'clock. Softball with a doubleheader at Otterbein also begins at 1 o'clock. And the men's tennis team will play the Otterbein Cardinals at home at 1 o'clock, with the women down in Westerville at 3:30. That's on Friday. Saturday, women's and men's track and field teams continue their competition out in Tiffin. And then, of course, on Easter Sunday, no competition for Yellow Jacket Athletics. 1 week from today, the men's golf team will be across town. They'll be at Shaker Heights Country Club hosted by John Carroll, the John Carroll Legends Invitational over at Shaker Heights. So we certainly hope that you'll support the Yellow Jackets along the way this week. We wish you and your family a safe and happy holiday weekend with the Easter holiday coming up. And hope to see you, I guess it would be 2 weeks from now, because we won't have a show this upcoming Monday because of the Easter holiday. So we'll rejoin you again. And because we'll do that, we'll tell you about what's going on the following week as well. So on Tuesday the 19th, softball plays Ohio Northern with a doubleheader. The baseball team will play Ohio Northern on Wednesday. Women's tennis has Muskingum on the 20th. And the lacrosse teams will play John Carroll home and away on Wednesday. And then the OAC Golf Championship on the ladies' side is coming up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday down at River Greens Golf Course, the 22nd, 3rd, and 4th. The Sparky Adams Invitational is on Saturday the 23rd. Baseball has Mount Union that weekend. Men's lacrosse and women's lacrosse are competing against Wilmington and Worcester. Softball also has the Purple Raiders. Men's and women's tennis compete against Marietta on Saturday the 23rd. And looking forward to a busy day that afternoon. And then on Sunday, baseball and softball play against Worcester and Oberlin, along with that golf tournament wrapping up. And then we'll see you on the 25th for our next Athletics Roadshow. Big thank you to Rob Becker, to Nicholle Shoger, and John Fuehrer, who are our guests here this evening. And again, hope you have a wonderful Easter holiday. I'm Brendan Gulick on behalf of BW Athletics and all of our sports information staff. We'll see you again in a couple weeks here on BWYellowJackets.com.